Jetzt kann ich aber jetzt kann man Chef
Karte med de efter der.
Four Dempsey going to go in 15 seconds. Welcome along, everybody, with pre-season preparations to the forefront of the minds of both Sturm Graz, our hosts here in Austria, and Bolton Wanderers of the English Championship. Still almost a month until the start of a new league campaign for the Bolton boss Neil Lennon, but such an important phase in his management career. And his players know most definitely that they are firmly back to work. A week-long training camp in Austria to precede this opening friendly. And now games on Saturday, Monday and Tuesday. Fixtures against Paderborn from Germany and Angie to come here after the opener against Sturm Graz in this Stadion Kombard. Not the UPC Arena, which, as you may be aware, is the home stadium of Sturm Graz, hosting this tournament nonetheless. This on the outskirts of the picturesque city of Graz in Austria. Bolton have been based some miles away in Pollau, made the short trip over here for this late afternoon kick-off. Very warm as well, around 25 degrees still. And they might have their hands full here against a side who've already been back in pre-season training for the guts of a month. Different rhythm to the season, of course, in Austria. An important moment for young Ben Amos in goal for Bolton Wanderers today. And he might be busy from the look of it early on here. That's the expectation, that it does appear to be quite a stiff test for openers for Bolton. Amos, released by Manchester United in mid-June and now signing a new contract to restart his career as hopefully the long-standing number one at Bolton, who have started out this game under Neil Lennon with just one player, Neil Downs, who featured in the closing league game of last season, the defeat by Birmingham City. Spread wide by Dobras, and arriving at pace down this side was Christian Clem, and they do look sharp early on here, Sturm Graz. That was our information, that they're probably 2 or 3 weeks ahead of Bolton. The intention from Neil Lennon, incidentally, is to play 2 different 11s, first half and second half here today, and they may well be grateful for that, all the players involved. 45 minutes in these temperatures against opposition as sharp as this might well be just enough for the moment. And the young man in possession here certainly one to keep an eye on. This is Donis Avgiai, who has got a growing reputation, the young Albanian. He's actually on loan from Schalke, the German Bundesliga club here, but he's done very well in the Austrian Bundesliga, signed on in the January transfer window, and his goal certainly made a difference as they clambered their way back into the Europa League places for the new season. And Bolton have been forewarned about him, we understand. Amos certainly getting plenty of touches early on. Not the best of clearing kicks. Very difficult to gauge it all from Bolton's point of view, of course, when the focus is so much on the hard work each day of this pre-season camp. They've had a very varied programme of physical work, we understand, including boxing and general conditioning work, as well as the football. Lennon, a very forward thinker in that respect. A little bit of experience in the centre-back positions. This is Medo Kamara, who got turned. But lots of youngsters like Zach Clough, the number 10 for Bolton today, looking to make an early impression on the minds of Neil Lennon and his coaching staff. Johan Mjølby and Gary Parker. And Gary Madine looking to make the right impression. Signing on from Sheffield Wednesday and in this 11 to start this game. But it's pretty much all Sturm Graz from the off here, as we expected it might be. Swadzik kept his position well. So very much getting to know you for the Bolton players at the moment. I'm not sure if they'll have done any preparation in terms of defending set pieces as a group. It's half of the squad that's out here. The one absentee, sadly, for Bolton at this camp is Josh Vella, who's been sent home suffering with a virus. So he unfortunately won't get the chance to make the early impression. And of course their mainstay defensively, Tim Ream, is absent on international duty. To the edge of the box and hit firmly by Christian Dobras. And not very far wide. 4 friendlies already for Sturm Graz, and I think it's showing here early on. They've only got about 12 days until the start of the Austrian Bundesliga season on July 25th. As I mentioned, the rhythm of the campaign in Austria is quite different to what Bolton would be used to. A short summer break. They had 3 weeks off after the last Bundesliga game at the end of May, May the 31st it was. Back in training on the 21st of June. And they finish on December the 11th for the midwinter break, which runs right through to the middle of February. More akin to the pattern in the German Bundesliga. Some say it's the right model. Hayden White didn't give Twarzik much to work with, and he just gave it away quite cheaply then to Piesinger. Another little trick by Avijay. Didn't get away from the second one. But it looks very much like White and Davies, the 2 centre-backs for Bolton in this first half, are going to have their hands full with this young man. White just letting him know he's there. Went on loan to Notts County, of course, last season. And for players like White, this is such an important time early in the campaign to get it all off on a good footing. Doing a lot of chasing here early on, Bolton. They get the ball to the feet of young Zach Clough. There's not much of him, but he's a heads-up footballer, as they like to say. And he's got the time to get his head up here. Wasn't a bad ball in. First little question asked by Bolton here. Quickly taken. Something that Lennon would have been asking for today. Sharp set pieces. Getting the ball in play. Clough got the room to have a hit. And that's a bit more like it. One of the local boys that Bolton Wanderers have been developing in their academy. Manchester area, they've got to choose the little gems left behind by the likes of Manchester City and Manchester United. 2 or 3 like that in this side today. Young Tom Walker also. And the right-back Niall Marr, I think we should put into the same category. Also keen to press the established players watching on the sidelines here. If anything, the Bolton substitute lineup resembles something much more akin to a first 11. Down the line by Marr. Madin showed for it. Old-fashioned sort of hold-up centre forward. 6'3". Marr's throw again. Was looking again for Madin. Kamara got a bit squeezed for room. Finished a pretty distant 4th in the Bundesliga in Austria last season, Sturm Graz. Title won by Salzburg with 73 points. Rapid Vienna second on 67. They had it between them, the top 2. And Sturm Graz particularly disappointed not to grab 3rd, given the size of their club. With Rheindorf Altach pipping them for that by a point, 59 to 58. But still enough to have a shot at the European scene again in the Europa League. 3 times champions in Austria, Sturm Graz, the last 2010-11. They've been treading water ever so slightly since then, this club. Dobras now. Got some good young players, though. Again, not the first time in the last decade or 2 that's been said. Kamara dwelling on it. That was very pre-season-like, wasn't it? And had the ball been better, Bolton might have paid more for that. Even the individual players, they don't really have the confidence in their own fitness just yet, and it's very hard to gauge exactly where you are in terms of your conditioning until you've actually played a proper game. Just a week or 10 days in. Of course, it is an expectation nowadays. Won by Madine, that's his stock in trade. And that's what he's been brought to Bolton Wanderers to do. That was promising. Clough nearly got on the end of it, actually. Spendelhofer did well. Certainly an up-tempo beginning to this friendly. Clough again doing so well and clipping the outside of the post. Brilliant from him. Esser in goal, got nowhere near it. And Zach Clough has come closest to getting Bolton's first goal of the pre-season campaign. Nice little link up with Madine before that, which does promise. Very much the case, of course, in this era that players at clubs like Bolton Wanderers keep themselves in shape over the off-season break. Most would have had most of May and June off. Can't afford to have 7 weeks putting your feet up, eating and drinking just what you like. And very often they are monitored and asked to provide statistical information during the break to the club. The main exception, of course, Tim Ream, who's on international duty with the United States at present. Offenbacher's hit. Ream actually played last night for the United States against Haiti in the CONCACAF Cup game in Massachusetts, which the USA won thanks to Clint Dempsey's goal, and that's enough, I understand, to see USA through to the next stage already. So it's going well for Ream. He won't be back here in Bolton circles for a week or two. Player of the Year last season, and that was struck brilliantly by Schick. And equally brilliantly blocked, had to be. Well, there's a call for another defender, I think. Svardzik bravely putting himself in harm's way then. And now taking station in his customary left-back position. But without Ream, who's been the anchor of this back four, Bolton do look a little bit at 6s and 7s early on here. Booted clear by Dervite, the Frenchman. Madine unable to gather that one in. Spendelhofer. Better read then by White. And Kamara gets it out from under his feet this time, looking long and early at Madine again. Got to try to bring him into the game, but he could have easily taken that to feet, surely. Feet of the keeper, Esser, instead. Spendelhofer. Mardel, the skipper. Great fascination of games like this, of course, is always the difference in styles of play. Slightly more considered, perhaps, by Sturm Graz, rather than the up and atom style of the Championship in England. Nicely worked here by the home side, and bodies in the box aplenty. Too much on it for Avijay, who's creeping into contention on the back post, unseen by young Mar. But that was a bit more patient in the build-up, and that's what this Sturm Graz side can offer. It's not to dismiss the level of play in the Championship by any means, because as well as all the blood and thunder and the high-tempo physicality last season, many of the teams playing superlative football, and it was Bolton, of course, one of those who found it so difficult to compete. Flirting with catastrophe, really. Bolton Wanderers FC, for large parts of last season, only finishing in 18th position, way too close to the bottom of the table. Difficult reign of Dougie Friedman coming to an end eventually, but the club showed great patience with him. To be commended, really, the way they gave him every opportunity to turn it round. The owner, Eddie Davies, Phil Gartside, the chairman, they know the business of football, and they weren't pressed into a panic move. But in the end, heading into the spring and facing a drop to the third tier, they had to make a decision. Friedman departed. In came Neil Lennon. But in a sense, this is day one for Lennon here. He did what was required with what he had at his disposal last season. He would say, now this is the start of my Bolton Wanderers era. Amos kept his head well. I'm not sure that Davies actually wanted it off him. Pressed hard by Josip Tadic. Tadic just released by Rijeka in Croatia. Played at a high level, and indeed I think I'm right in saying he also had a spell in Australia. Could be a good pickup for Sturm Graz for the season ahead. Spendelhofer. Have to say that the two centre-backs for Sturm Graz looking a little bit more comfortable with the ball at their feet than their counterparts for Bolton here early on. Potsman. Piecing up. Clough unable to get it as Bolton tried to close down. Maddie's going to have to work a little bit harder than that, I fancy. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt, of course. But he's already walking around there, as you can see. All part of the conditioning programme, playing this game, which, as I mentioned, is likely to be only 45. A little bit ragged again then was White, not having the best of starts. Davies got a foot in, couldn't get the second one, and had the pullback been better, they were queuing up for it. For Sturm Graz, including Avdijai and Dobras, who's already hit one with real menace. Piesinger now. Slowing up on the pitch. Amos came right off his line, got the block on, and well improvised by Kamara. Pitch is playing pretty slow here. Grass not cut to the number 1 setting on the mower, and there's been a little bit of rain and thunderstorm activity in the region in the past day or two, just to slow it down that little bit more. Spendelhofer. Again, that ball slowing up into the corner. It's quite a useful tactic Sturm Graz have used here, exploiting this situation underfoot. Might try it again here. Cut off by Kamara. Piesinger. Svardzik. That's a very decisive jump from the former Celtic fullback. Amos had to watch that one carefully. It was hopping as it came to him. Offenbacher. Tidy from him. And again, all too easy to get in behind this back four. And again, it was Svardzik, who was struggling ever so slightly. You'd have to say of Philip Svardzik that he does need to make a good impression here early on. He's a player that Neil Lennon has shown plenty of faith in. Not sure he looks completely sharp just yet. Quite a disappointing end to last season for Sturm Graz. They won only one of the last 8 through April and May. And it was a while before that the home fans saw their team win. Last home win on the 18th of April against Rote. They've lost at Midtjylland and Zenit in pre-season friendlies in the last 10 days. They might be in here. Amos sharp to his right, but carved open down the middle of the field time and again here, Bolton Wanderers. And Dobras and Davies are having a bit of a field day here early on. Way too much room here. Nice run by Dobras. Decent hit, and Amos just stood up long enough. He'll be pleased with that save. Torsten Schick with the corner for Sturm Graz. .26 approaching that, Ben Amos now. Played for England at every underage level from under 16 up through under 21. Looked next in line for a while at Old Trafford. Came to Bolton on loan in January. Looks like the right move at the right time for him. And then I'm happy to give him a long-term contract. Maybe knocked off it. Out it comes to Clem. Walker closed him down, but he couldn't get the foot in. Had to recover. And between him, he and Marr made a bit of a mess of that. Schick forged on and then took the wrong option completely. Again, it goes beyond Medin. Hooked. Clear by Spendelhofer. Almost to be expected, I think, but it's clear that some of the Bolton players in slightly better condition than some of their teammates. They don't all get there at the same rate. Part of the task of the head of physical preparation at Bolton, Mark Leather, to bring everybody to the boil at the same time and the right moment, of course, is the first week of August. Doesn't matter now, but it is instructive, I think, to see the difference in the overall level in some of the Bolton players compared to their teammates. Generally, you'd have to say it's easy to see where they're at. It's still very early days. Mardel, the skipper. One back by Kamara, who's got in a fair amount of tidying up duty there. White. Kind of sums it up there, that touch, from Bolton's point of view. Nothing to alarm Neil Lennon, I think is exactly what he would have expected at this stage, but it will certainly have the benefit, this exercise today, of focusing the minds of one or two that what needs still to be done. Not good from Amos. White in the right place. Gives it to Kamara. Might have gone square to Dan's. Apologises afterwards, actually. Abajai. Schleckford. Goal kick. Started out at the famous Crewe Alexandra Academy, Ben Amos. Feeney. Oh. Clearest free kick of the day so far. Mardel the culprit. Quickly taken, and again that's a theme from Bolton's point of view in this pre-season friendly. Lennon wants them to get it down and get it moving. Tvardzik unable to do much with it, however. Aimed over Tvardzik's shoulder. That's a tactic they've used well. That's the best ball of the day so far. And very nearly the opener. Now maybe. It was a brilliant second block. Had to be by White. Helped on by Madine. Can they hit back on the counter? Here goes Feeney for Bolton Wanderers. Clough made tracks toward the centre spot. The penalty spot. And it was aimed at him eventually. Straight into the arms of Essa. The header actually came from Walker in the end, I think. Great response by Bolton. Davies may have overcooked that slightly. What a tremendous little passage of play that was. To say they had to survive in a very hard league last season is an understatement, I think, Bolton, given the quality of the football played by the top sides. Spectacular stuff, even from the likes of Middlesbrough, who were ultimately to be confounded in heartbreaking fashion. The standard of play and the scrap for the promotion places, historically good. And it certainly set a high mark for Neil Lennon and Bolton for the coming campaign. There'll be some good sides in there once more. And some say there's been a gentle revolution in the style of play also. Bournemouth, of course, sensationally leading the way into the top flight. Neither trainer has been on the field so far, happily. This we don't like to see in pre-season or at any time. Mardell, the skipper. Looked an honest challenge for the ball between himself and White. I think he's okay. I did him a misservice. It's Tadic, in fact, and that will worry Sturm Graz just a little bit, to see Tadic hopefully going to be okay, but the slight worry that he could be carrying an injury as he tries to forge a new career here at Sturm Graz. Hoping to resume here. Tadic. Amos trying to get Madine into the game. Well, the assistant on the far side actually demonstrated he thought it was a throw then for Bolton. In fact, free kick to the home side. They don't make much use of it. Piesinger. Almost for Tadic. Almost an own goal in the end. Bit untidy again. Amos is doing the organising, pushing people where he wants them from Bolton's point of view.
Attack the ball, eh? Come on, no goals. No goals, come on, eh? Come on, Ben.
Cooper couldn't get to it and might have paid a bigger price for it. I think we all heard the shout, "Come on, Ben, get to it." And with Spindelhofer creeping in around the back, he might have been punished. Walker unable to get to it. Now Marr with a little bit of room. But a little flick on was a clever one, offside against Feeney, I think, on that far side. A little bit unlucky. Was on loan at Blackpool last season, Gary Madine. And it's a very big chance in the life of the big man at the moment, with the notoriety he unfortunately gathered to his reputation following that jail sentence. Given a chance to put it all behind him by Neil Lennon. Got to seize it. Not been able to hurry up the Sturm Graz defenders at all in this first half, Bolton. That will, I think, be a little bit of a disappointment from Neil Lennon's side. It's a good win back then by Dans in the middle of the field. And he got a free kick for it out of Piesinger. Marr. Nice little show by Walker. Has to check onto his left. Marr again. Nice idea. Back whence it came for Walker. Good ball in from him. Madl it was who got to it. Gary Parker, front and centre with Neil Lennon. They were all together at Celtic, of course, Mjällby, Parker and Lennon. And I mentioned Mark Leather, once of Liverpool, is in charge of the medical team. Not quite for Madine. A lot of heads went down when the ball went dead from Bolton's point of view. That will not please Lennon. Nobody really switching on to the next phase of play. Clough did well. Feeney caught it up. Madine took a long time to get those legs going. He looks, as they say, short of a gallop in this first half, the new signing. Understandable. Tadic running off that injury. Can he get to this? Did well. And he looks a lot sharper than Madine, in fairness. Now, was there a little bit of a deflection off Walker here? No, but the young midfielder did a good job of pressing and hurrying the shot a little bit to deny a clear sight of the target to Offenbacher. Amos coming into a team that conceded 67 league goals last season. In fairness, not the worst in the division, Bolton. Reading 69. Millwall relegated with 76 conceded. And Blackpool, who lost the plot really in the second half of the season, they ended up conceding 91, but 67 is certainly way too many. You'd have to look to get under 60 realistically just to get into the top half of the division. And the corollary, of course, is that they were never scoring enough, just 54. Bournemouth and Watford promoted at the end of a truly gripping promotion race. Norwich, Middlesbrough, Brentford and Ipswich into the playoffs, where Norwich ultimately prevailed. But it'll be very hard again next season with the likes of Wolverhampton Wanderers, Ipswich, who came so close, Derby County, who faded out of it so badly. Just three of those who'll be among the favourites. Cardiff, a big club with big ambitions. Off Tadic. To say nothing of Leeds United. The man in charge here is Franco Foda. He's a German, actually. I remember him playing for West Germany in the latter days of the West German national team before reunification. Fine player he was. Kaiserslautern, Bayer Leverkusen and Stuttgart among his clubs as a player in Germany. Ended his playing career here in Austria, and it's actually his second spell in charge as manager of Sturm Graz. Went back to Germany to Kaiserslautern. Didn't really work out for him. Given a second opportunity, did well first time round. Helped them to the title. Clough is down. And up again. Just barged off by piecing up. So, Tvartzik, Walker and Clough all lining it up. Not been a lot for Esse to do in goal so far. Deflection, and he had to get across sharply then, Esse. Good hit. Good stop. Clough showing for it again. Just unable to thread it through the eye of the needle then. Dan's on duty back there, did well. Madine. Little ball over the top by Davies. Nice one, but Feeney needs to be doing a little bit better than that. Statement of faith from Lennon in Liam Feeney also. Telling him to captain this side for the first 45 today. Former Millwall man. Offenbacher. Rather untidy from Sturm Graz. Kamara. Across to White. Just ran out of ideas then. Hayden White. Can be so effective as a way of building confidence in players who've taken a bit of a battering these pre-season games, if it goes well. Finally start to put last season's misfortunes out of your mind. Tvartzik couldn't stop the cross. Amos was waiting for that one. Good knock on by Madine and almost for Clough. Piecing up. Haven't closed the ball down at all, really, Bolton. think that will disappoint Lennon. Just don't have the legs at the moment to do that at this stage of the preparation. There's going to be a lot of teams who will like to play against them in the Championship unless you can start to get in their faces. I mentioned some of those who came so close last season, particularly the likes of Middlesbrough and Derby. Certain teams, of course, will just have to try to find their feet in the Championship. Rotherham coming the other way. Preston North End and the MK Dons. Bristol City. All teams who like to play. And of course it's very familiar territory to the likes of Burnley and Queen's Park Rangers coming down from the top flight. Now they had one or two problems with the corners in this first half, Bolton. Nice idea, nice step over, 2 step overs in fact, brilliant goal. As they say, it was off the training ground. Here we are on the training ground and they produce a real beauty here. Bolton completely flummoxed by it. A double step over, don't see that too often. Don't have too many teams with the confidence to try it, pre-season or regular season, but the reward is reaped for it. Amos had been struggling with one or two of the more orthodox corners. Nothing he could do with this one. And you'd have to say deservedly, Sturm Graz in front. They've asked more of the questions in this first half. It's not actually been made quite clear to us whether Sturm Graz will do as Bolton intend to do, which is to play a whole different 11 in the second half. But all the Sturm Graz substitutes are warming up behind Esser's goal at the moment. Not that you need to warm up today, but just to stretch out a little bit. 25 degrees at kickoff. Clem. Walker covering back, and Marr forward. Sensational goal, wasn't it? And the steady, composed strike when the opportunity came for Dobras. Had a stinger earlier in the half, didn't he, Christian Dobras? And Bolton were no more alive to him then than they were for the earlier one. It with the throw. Lennon quite impassive on the touchline. Taking it all in, all being filed away mentally. Marr hasn't got forward an awful lot and didn't have much of an idea, in fairness then, Niall Marr, I'm afraid. The 19-year-old. He's annoyed with himself as well. Happily, it's on the far side from Lennon. Spendelhofer. Tadic trying to get turned. White just stood his ground against him. Tvardzik. Closed down. Stoppage time in this first half. I don't see any reason for the referee to extend it in a pre-season friendly, quite honestly. There was a stoppage for an injury to Tadic and the goal, but it is a practice game only, let's be fair. Let's be fair to the players. And he does draw a halt here. It's been good from Sturm Graz's point of view. They lead 1-0 at the break. A little bit of afters as the players draw breath here. Brilliant goal by Dobras. Lovely set-piece move. And I'm afraid at the end of a hard week of pre-season physical work, it's been a hard 45 minutes for those Bolton players entrusted with opening the pre-season calendar in terms of game time. They haven't created an awful lot. And we wait to find out if Lennon will stick with those who started or make all the changes that were mooted for the second period. And it would resemble much more of a first 11. But at half-time, the Bolton 11 trails Sturm Graz by a 1-0.
Bis jetzt?
Hallo, hallo, hallo?
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren der Schulfamilie, ich ersuche Sie, sich zu erheben, um zwei verpflichtvoller ehemaliger Spitzenfunktionäre des Sturm Graz zu gedenken. Das Schicksal wollte es so, dass in dieser Woche innerhalb von nur 2 Tagen zwei sich sehr nahestehende Ehrenpräsidenten des SKSturm verstorben sind. Am Mittwoch ist Herr Kühler von uns gegangen, gestern verstarb Franz Davies. Kommandant Franz Davies war nicht nur ein großer steirischer Unternehmer und ehemaliger Präsident der Wirtschaftskammer, daneben schlug das Herz von Franz stets für den SKSturm. Von 1972 bis 1976 war Davies Vizepräsident, von 1976 bis 1983 leitete er unsere Jugend mit viel Geschichte als Präsident. In seiner Ära gelangen der SKSturm große internationale Erfolge. Ehrenpräsident Franz Davies wurde 77 Jahre alt. Kampfführer ist am Mittwoch im Alter von 84 Jahren verstorben. Der legendäre Wirt des Brauhausrestaurants bekleidete von 1965 bis 1982 das Amt des Vizepräsidenten und setzte sich zusammen mit Franz Davies über viele Jahre hinweg für das Wohl des SKSturm ein. 1983 wurde Thüringer zum Ehrenpräsidenten bestimmt. Mit Franz Davies und Karl Thüringer verliert der SKSturm zwei große Persönlichkeiten, die wir immer in unseren schwarzen Herzen tragen werden. Unser tiefes Mitgefühl gilt den Hinterbliebenen und Freunden der Verstorbenen. Danke.
Welcome back, everybody. Underway here in the second half in this pre-season friendly between Sturm Graz and Bolton Wanderers. Stadion Kumbach. To repeat, not the proper home of our host, Sturm Graz, in this very beautiful city of Graz. Bolton here in Austria as part of a quite lengthy pre-season camp. First of 3 friendlies in 4 days for them. And Neil Lennon, as was expected, giving everybody a taste of it today. Wholesale changes at the break. Pretty much a new 11 for Bolton. Slightly different approach from Sturm Graz, who, as I mentioned, are closer to the start of their regular season. Pretty much their first 11, Sturm Graz, but playing against something in this second half a little bit more akin to what you might call the first 11 for Bolton. Certainly much more so than was the case in the first half today. Moxie, Taylor, Spearing, Prattley, all coming on. Very clever goal to divide the sides at the break. Dobras, the scorer of it. All those Sturm Graz substitutes warming up in that same far corner as they were for the last 10 minutes or so in the first half, but not called on. Dean Moxie and co are on there for Bolton. And Ben Amos, the man to have conceded today. Derek wanted it played short to him, but he goes longer. Stephen Davies on as the replacement for Gary Madine up front for Bolton. Madine has been signed on, we understand, but Dobby is on trial at the moment. Davies just standing his ground to stop the free kick being taken. And that will be brought back. Well, the flag went up and then went down again, and the ref allowed Bolton to go on and on. And eventually, well, I'm not even certain whether it went in on the off the post. It's been given, but to say it was a scrappy way to score a goal is an understatement. How and ever, it has gone in the net, and Bolton Wanderers are level early in the second half. Quite how it happened, well, the inquest will be something. Esser seemed to get it and push it back over the line, but before that, certainly, the whistle had gone. Davies just kept going and entitled to do so. But it did look as though the play had been stopped before that. The flag certainly went up. And a little bit of an inquest continuing on that far side, certainly. The fact of it is, it's 1-1. And he's not happy about it, is he? Can see his point of view, but the whistle I don't think ever actually went. So the old adage applies, even if the flag did go up. Keep going. And certainly one or two of his defenders did stop. Back by Pratley. Bolton get that decision also. Well, it's getting ridiculous, actually. The assistant again overruled by the referee. Hopefully they're in tandem this time. Not quite for Davies. Rather old-fashioned look toward that assistant on the far side then from Piesinger, and with good reason, I think. A little bit of treatment required on that far side, with the assistant nowhere to be seen again, actually, and not rushing it, Darren Pratley, understandably so, pre-season. All a bit disorganised, sadly, from the officials' point of view. Derek had to go back for it. Taylor also having to go back. The mainstay, really, Pratley in the middle of the park for Bolton in recent seasons. And he's got Jay Spearing alongside him, who made a great impression last season. They should be that bit more authoritative in that area of the field here, Bolton, second half. Next generation being schooled on the back pitch here. On the other side of the mound behind Amos's goal. Taylor from South London, actually, but delighted to have made the breakthrough at Bolton Wanderers. I believe he was at Crystal Palace for a year or two, actually, and Dougie Friedman knew him from there. Taylor out to Moxey, replacing Twardzik down this left side for Bolton in the second period. Spearing. Fratley just got there. In essence, one or two of the rookies replaced by much more seasoned performers at championship level in this second half for Bolton. Long by Derrick. A bit too long for Dobby. Dobby, another ex-Crystal Palace man, of course, although he didn't play much there. Little flick on from him to Hall. Davies made a little run toward the penalty spot. Dobby keen to make an early impression here. Went alone then, put his head down, and maybe not the best of options. You can understand it, Spearing. Kellett took the tumble. That will have to be retaken. Dobby's come to have a look at this one as well. In fact, I think he's going to be allowed the chance to hit it, which he does. Well, he spent 2 seasons struggling, really. Stephen Dobby on loan at Blackpool and Fleetwood, not required by Crystal Palace. Ultimately, they freed him. Not a very glamorous position to be in, so it's an important moment in his career now. Incidentally, there have been rumours over the last 10 days or so that Bolton are also considering asking Wilson Palacios to come on a trial, a former Tottenham man who's been released by Spurs. Might be a useful addition if he's up for the task. Spearing to Moxey. Just got that little bit more confidence with the ball at his feet than Twardzik demonstrated beneath us here in the first period. Bolton are certainly moving the ball better here, second period, with something more resembling a first team out there. Even if the touch wasn't the best off Hall. Man. Sent to safety, emphatically so by Taylor. Not as easy here for Sturm Graz to play their way forward the way they did so stylishly at times in the first half today. Space is a bit more restricted. Cover slightly sharper. Just looks more of a unit, this Bolton side. Piesinger. Wildly optimistic, that. Threlkeld just leaves it for Prattley. Not really certain that Hall wanted it off his goalkeeper then. Kellett stepped in, so too did Spearing. Encouraging little round of applause from the touchline for Dobby, making himself the target then. They're going to apparently give him every chance to do enough to convince. Christian Clem has to wait a little. And wait again. Approaching the hour mark here. Derek determined. Off the shoulder of Kellett, I believe. Dobby made tracks down the middle. Bolton get the free kick, and I don't think that Hall was entirely happy with the apology afterwards. Or the second attempt at it. Time for some changes now. Well, he felt he was getting away from the intended challenge of Offenbacher. I think he was right, actually. That's the point he's making now. 30 minutes to play. And let's find out now who is going to get the 30 minutes. Amos withdrawn by Neil Lennon for Bolton. And the young Irish goalkeeper Ross Fitzsimmons was on the team list to be the replacement today. No confirmation of that just at this moment. Certainly much more businesslike from Bolton, pressing Sturm Graz's back four players. They've just upped it a little bit here, second half, this Bolton side. Made it much more difficult for Sturm Graz to play through them and round them. Admittedly, the changes beginning to come thick and fast for Sturm Graz also, with Adam Wonyi out there up front now for the home side. Or at least our host, to be pedantic about it. Bolton have been nominated home team in the fixture. A good win back by Schick. That's his cross ball, and Wonyi with a great chance. Best of the half for Sturm Graz. Might have done a little bit better with that, and at least forced a save out of the new goalkeeper. Leaning back. A little bit of a let-off. for Bolton. Pratley keen to show who's boss in there. Pratley. For a tall man, he's quite elegant with the ball at his feet. Prepared to back his own ability in tight positions. A little bit of rough and tumble as well. Been harder going for the second half substitutes for Sturm Graz, men like Hadzic there. Of course, as a group, the Sturm players will have a much clearer idea of who is actually first team and who is on the periphery, with the start of their season proper a lot closer. Can be dispiriting for one or two if they're made aware that they're not in the minds of the manager as the starting player. That's where you've got to show your real professionalism. Decent ball in, and I think the sun could be a troubling factor for the goalkeepers here. Second period as it dips down behind the hills. No problem there for Essa. Kienast. Pratley. Again, backing himself in a tight area there to keep a hold of it. Adamwonyi trying to make the right impression after missing that glaring chance. That was a little bit loose by Taylor. Might have played his team into some bother here. Here comes Sturm Graz. And Fitzsimons has to make a sharp save. And it was a sharp save to deny Gruber. Good work from the young goalkeeper. And another member of this ex-Crystal Palace contingent, of course, Fitzsimons, coming in from Crystal Palace, where Dougie Friedman had been in charge. Still with very strong contacts there to go along with Dobby and all the others. Adamwonyi's chest down is none too accurate either. Not quite for Dobby. Offside. Referee might have let that go, actually, in a pre-season friendly. A point Spearing may well be making. I'm not sure that he's a German speaker, Spearing. Doesn't need to actually say anything, does he? The body language told the entire story there, I think. Potsman has gone off for Sturm Graz as Moxie swings it in for Bolton. Oh, and over the top it goes. That's the kind of ball Dobby will be looking to get on the end of. Player coming on, incidentally, was Ehrenreich. With no disrespect at all to Gary Madine, I think what we have seen in this second half is that we've got a front man out there in Dobby who's just that little bit more mobile to begin with across the ground, and he's more prepared to make a statement today in terms of how he's putting himself around. Nadine really couldn't get into top gear, get those legs going this early in pre-season, admittedly. More to come from him, and he's a much better orthodox target man, really, in terms of knocking the ball up the front than Dobby will be, but Dobby is integrating into this framework just a little bit better, it would appear. And giving Bolton the better option as a consequence. Almost again for him then. Just making that short little diagonal run. There's not much distance to cover, but doing it sharply is all the trick then. But Amonyi did well. Taylor trying to keep him in the pocket. Threlkeld came to help and actually should have done better. Bit too easy then. Derek did well to get out and get a block. And fizzing past that right-hand post second time. Second block wasn't too clever, I don't think, from Bolton's point of view. Not missing by an awful lot from Piesinger. They look like a side, Sturm Graz, who spend plenty of time practicing their distance shooting. Fitzsimmons has been forewarned here. Derek had to turn quickly. Ehrenreich. I think there has been a slight tendency to look upon Austrian football in a slightly patronising manner over the last decade or two, and that is a complete misapprehension, I'm afraid, when one thinks about the quality of the international side these days and some of the truly top-line players that the country can boast these days. This is one of the factories, Sturm Graz, where they've been produced. So much money and attention to detail in their youth systems, and I think a lot of countries who claim to know better could do well to study closer what's been going on in Austria. Certainly the market here, the transfer market here, is very closely scrutinised by all the top German clubs, and they've gone out of their way really to try to forge better and better links with some of the best in Austria. Spearing again unhappy with the officials, and Prattley also. Let's remember it is only a friendly, guys. Hadzic. Derek dropping over his shoulder, but it was a very good starting position by the young goalkeeper then. Read that well. Here's Moxey. Tidy by Taylor. Prattley to Davies, the goal scorer. Moxey again. Square by Derek. Spearing takes over. Heartbroken, of course, to be told by Liverpool he wasn't required. Jay Spearing, his boyhood club. Many Liverpool supporters did question the decision, but he's rolled his sleeves up in a most manly fashion and got on with his career. Making a good impression, and who's to say he won't be back in the Premier League, either with or without Bolton in the coming years. Fell for Dobby. And he tried to link with Davies, who almost smuggled the ball back. Done well, really, Davies joining in off Dobby in this second half. So unfortunate with injuries, of course, but at his best, he was one of the best of the last few years produced by Bolton, definitely. Hope he can get back to that. Now this man wearing 5, according to the team sheet, Marko Stankovic, was not actually going to feature today. The official team sheet did not have his name on it. So we'll try to confirm whether that is in fact Stankovic. Spearing. Ball just got a toe in. Taylor. They do a strong line in tall centre-backs, Bolton. Wanderers, you think about Wheater and others. Players who always have backed themselves to be able to play just a little bit with the ball at their feet. Might have played themselves into a bit of bother here. They have done. Back off the post and to safety. And what a good piece of second covering that was for Bolton, because Fitzsimons couldn't get the first one. And really brilliant piece of work. I think it's Threlfeld who gets across here. Very alert to the danger, the right back. Watch him coming in left of picture now and getting his head to that. Excellent work from young Oscar Threlkeld to deny a certain Sturm goal. And again.
You're always on the second one. Relax. It's not there to get it. Don't get it. Go! Yes, switch on! Jay, you're right. Jay, you're right. Shot. Get it, make sure on the line. Yes, let's go,
Moxie. Should be another corner. I don't think anyone would dispute that decision. Gruber had the hit, and again, they're very keen and happy to hit it from the edge of the box, these Sturm Graz players. Nice to see that, always. Moxie with the right boot, maybe not quite so polished, but he got the job done anyway.
Who's with him? You with him? Yes, Jay. Come on, come on, drop them up. Double the post, double the post. Wait. Open up, open your body. Yes, stay with your man, stay with your man. Stay with your man.
We're hearing all the chat. Prattley over his shoulder. No danger in that from Gruber. Evening shadows now, round about 15 to play here. Hall got a foot in. No way through for piecing up. Quite well tidied up by Mardle, actually. A lot of high-level performers in this Sturm Graz squad who'll be looking to it a lot better this season than finishing a distant fourth. And I think that is rather expected of them by the club. Dobby got turned. Wide by Davies. Little ball threaded forward by Kellett. Nothing doing. Well seen by Derrick. He looks like a player who's keen to make the right impression from day one this season. Here's Spearing. On by Kellett to Moxey. Kellett again. Prattley. Offside, far side against Hall, I believe it is. No problems for Moxey. Impressive today, Piesinger. Sandy Lovrich gets a few minutes at the end here. Derrick onto Threlkeld. Picking out Hall is a bit tight. I think even he didn't bother to look to the assistant. Just knew it was out of play and stopped. Started at West Ham, of course. Hall. That's a bit late from Threlkeld. No arguing over that free kick decision. Clearly he thinks the opponent made rather too much of it, but he was diving in, as they say. Makes up the referee's mind, really, and it's immaterial whether you do actually make contact with your opponent or not. Lovrich. Moxey stopped it from coming in down that side from Muddle. Andreas Gruber to take this corner. It's a good looking ball and it had to be headed clear by Prattley. A little bit slow to pick up then Bolton. Put clear by Spearing. Good win back by Mardell. There's something of a late surge here by Sturm Graz inside the last 10-15 minutes of this game. Bolton certainly took command of it after half-time, but again that pre-season factor beginning to show itself here, surely. Bolton just haven't got it in the legs just yet. Game number 5 of Sturm Graz's pre-season programme. Well, that's promising from their point of view. Aaron Rice got on the end of it too. Another tremendous piece of covering by Threlkeld. He's got that side of his game down pat at the moment. The young right back covering around behind his centre backs at just the right time. Promising. Aaron Rice with the throw. Knowing Neil Lennon as I do, I think the one thing he would say now is he does not want young players to be happy to be just filling up the squad and not really pressing the point for a first-team place. He would want young players to be as hungry as he was as a young player, to get the opportunity, and when it comes, to take it with both hands. That will be his message to the likes of Threlkeld, Taylor, Kellett, and perhaps the next generation, the likes of Marr, who started today at right back, Walker, those sort of players. Go and make a career for yourself, and it won't be given to you. You've got to go and forge it. It's a very tough start to the season when you look at Bolton Wanderers' first month or so of league fixtures. They start with a home game against Derby County, who will be smarting and looking to get out the blocks quickly after what happened in the closing weeks of last season. Derby County under new management, of course, now as well. There's a League Cup tie at home to Burton Albion. And some really testing fixtures in the first month, including Middlesbrough away, promoted MK Dons away, home to Nottingham Forest, another of the underachievers of last season, Forest, and Blackburn away. And there's always a little bit of something in the air when Bolton and Blackburn meet. Not always pleasant. All that's before the end of August and the first international break, and then following that, in early September, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Arguably Wolves and Leeds, perhaps of all the sleeping giants, the most threatening. Now then, I think this could be a penalty. Moxey does his best to laugh off the embarrassment of it. There was a little bit of a shirt pull off the ball as the play built up down the left, and that has been enough to persuade this referee to give a penalty, and it's going to give Kienast, I believe, is going to take it, the chance possibly to win this, which he takes without a problem. Well, it won't matter, it's academic today, it's only a training game, but I don't think it would be quite so placid, Bolton Wanderers, if that decision had decided the destination of 3 points in a Championship League game. Nicely stroked home by Kienast. I suppose if you're the referee, if you see it, you give it. And if you're Kienast, you want to take it, just like that. Now, will that fire up a late response here by Bolton? They've probably been guilty of just allowing Sturm Graz to take over again in the last 10-15 minutes of the game, but there's a goal out of nothing, really. Lovric. Ehrenreich gives it back to him. You can set out to play pre-season games against non-league opponents, scratch sides. Bolton Wanderers have set a high standard for themselves, coming here to Austria to meet Sturm Graz, and it's been a test. Ehrenreich. We think the score is 2-1, incidentally. Pre-season also perhaps for our graphics operator in Austria. Hall did well, actually off the shin of Hadzic, I think. Got away with that one. No need for it to boil over like this. Kienast has always been a fiery so-and-so, and Pratley's not happy with him. Davies jumps in from some distance, it must be said. Bit frustrated, Bolton, here with how this referee has conducted its second half. Pratley needs to calm himself down. He's supposed to be setting the example here. Foda's on the field, the Sturm Graz boss, to calm everybody down. Red card has been brandished. Who is it for? Well, Pratley can't be doing that. He's the Bolton Wanderers captain after all. It's really a question of what the referee actually saw among the several transgressors. Who's going to be the guilty party? You wanted to be competitive, but not in that way in pre-season. Time almost up here. They have a free kick, Bolton. Kellett went over. Well, he's not a noted goal scorer, I must say. Not sure that's the best selection to give it to Spearing. He wanted it, and he got his chance. All the Bolton players wearing these data collection devices in their jersey collars. All the data will be reviewed by Mark Leather as to how much they've run, how hard, etc. And back to the conditioning work tomorrow, no doubt. Time is called by this referee, not before time in all honesty. Got a bit fiery here at the very end, but Sturm Graz have edged it 2-1 after a controversial penalty decision. That is academic, but the performance of the Bolton players demonstrates that there is a fair amount to do, in all honesty, and Neil Lennon, I don't think, will be surprised to have learned that today against a quality opponent who are much closer to the start of their campaign proper. Sturm Graz dominated early and late. Good spell for Bolton in the middle of it. More important than anything else, all of those Bolton players who've made the trip to Austria have got on the field of play, and they look to go again tomorrow with two friendlies to come in the subsequent days as well. But it's all about preparation and conditioning, and it's the conclusion of a first week's work for Neil Lennon in a very, very important season for him personally. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it from here in Austria. Bye-bye for now.